Chris Lynch News with Boxman. Buy or hire our shipping containers, both new and used, available right here in Christchurch. Call 0800 Boxman.
National Party leader Christopher Luxon is with me. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Chris. Good to be with you.
Let's get into it. The left-leaning disinformation project presented a report on One News several days ago now, using discredited claims about the Māori Party and its candidate being a victim of a ram raid. Are you frustrated that there's silence on your opposition's misinformation?
Yeah, look, I mean, the campaign over this election campaign, frankly, has had a lot of misinformation in it. We've seen quite blatant misrepresentation of our positions on a range of policy issues. We had the CTU fire out an email, for example, last week to all of its members, tens of thousands of members, saying we were cancelling the winter energy payment, we were cancelling sick leave, parental paid leave, all of those things, first year free fees are free. So all of that stuff is just, it's a real shame, because I think this government's run and the Labor Party's run a very negative personal campaign, sadly, and a lot of misinformation flying around.
Let's look at that, because Christchurch is plastered with your face, but not in a good light, with attack ads funded by the Council of Trade Unions. Did you ever think this campaign would be so nasty?
I have to be honest and say I didn't. I think that's been the surprising and disappointing part of the campaign. And I just don't think it helps us have a decent debate and a discussion about the things and the policies and the plans to take New Zealand forward. But it's sort of understandable. You've got a government that's actually been in power now for 6 years. It doesn't want to run on its record, because it actually hasn't achieved anything in that period of time, and it also doesn't have any new ideas to take the country forward. So if you listen to Chris Hipkins over the whole campaign, really, he'll always open his media stand-up with a full-on attack on me and or the party, and talk more about us than himself or his own ideas. And I just think that's unhelpful. And then you've obviously had a close association between the Labor Party and the CTU, and they've decided to take us on. But the sad thing is, a lot of our policies, low and middle income tax relief, actually the CTU should be advocating for, because those are policies, and the approach by which we're going about it is done in centre right and also in centre left countries and other parts of the world. So, unfortunately, the ideology and the politics has led to misinformation and I think a very negative and very personal campaign from the other side.
Arguably, what could be seen as positive, depending on your political viewpoints, of course, Labor brought a full front page cover ads in the Christchurch press, yet given the paper's obvious bias, it's probably preaching to the converted. Can you shift, or can National shift that red narrative in Christchurch, because it went full red last time round?
Yeah, I absolutely think we can, Chris. And I've been in Christchurch an awful lot. I've done back on track tour meetings through Christchurch. I've been down there, every couple of weeks in a range of meetings with different people in the city, talking about what's going on and what's needed. But I'm really impressed by our candidates. When I look at what's happening in Banks Peninsula, in Wigram, Dale Stephens in Christchurch Central, Matt Elling even in Christchurch East, they have been literally door knocking on tens of thousands of homes. They have heaps of signs up. They've been getting the message out, and they've been working incredibly hard, and they're supported by very energised supporters on the ground. So one of our big goals in this campaign is that we want to lift the party vote across Christchurch very, very strongly. We think we've got a really good shot to do some serious damage in a number of those big red seats. But importantly, we also want to win back Ireland very strongly, and Hamish Campbell's doing a great job running there as well. So net, we really want to see the party vote lift across Christchurch. I think we can take quite a lot of party votes out, and that's what we've been seeing. But we've got outstanding candidates. We've been running a very vigorous and very positive campaigns across the whole of Christchurch, I think.
If you do win more seats from Christchurch, or more of the party vote this time round, do you sincerely believe it's because National has been working harder in Christchurch, or is it simply because people are sick of the current government and its policies? Or is it a bit of both?
I actually think, Chris, it's a bit of both. When you look at people like Dale Stephens in Christchurch Central, he ran a very, very good campaign there in 2020. He's done exactly that and built on that in 2023. He's attracted a whole range of tech and young entrepreneurs, actually, that have been part of his campaign. When I look at what Hamish Campbell has been doing finally in Ireland and doing a good job getting his message out, he's knocked on tens of thousands of doors as well. Vanessa Wienick in Banks Peninsula, look at Tracy Summerfield in Wigram and Matt Stockout in Christchurch East. These guys are really fantastic candidates. They're really good people. They come from really good backgrounds and have lots to offer in real world experience. So I think they've been energising their campaigns very well. But equally, the issues in Christchurch more and more are aligned to a lot of the issues that we see across New Zealand. The economy's going backwards. The cost of living crisis is biting bad. Law and order's out of control. Government's soft on crime. You've got an education system that's failing and falling. And you've got a healthcare system in crisis and actually not available to us and with endless wait times. So those issues, while there's Christchurch and Canterbury expressions of those, that is a really big challenge.
Well, it's a big challenge, and I see that I think it was an article in Newsroom that had a go at you for not having any specific Christchurch policies. But then I would push back on that and suggest, well, as you pointed out, the issues that we face in Christchurch with ED wait times, with having no 24-hour private surgery, they are at endemic levels right across New Zealand. And the issues that we face in Christchurch actually are the same in Wellington and Auckland. We're one country with similar issues.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think if you go back, the last 10 years, obviously the earthquake was a very specific set of circumstances, and the rebuild of Christchurch was a major focus. But as you've seen Christchurch bounce back, and it's good to see progress on the stadium, but we're by and large there. The Christchurch motorways have been built, and I think have been very successful and made a big difference, certainly from when I grew up in the city and what it's like now driving around. I look at the work out to up in the Waimak, and then we've got work and commitment to do more around the bridges, Ashburton Bridge in particular, and the Wood End bypass further north. But basically it's continue some of that infrastructure investment, but really it's about dealing with the core issues that all Kiwis are wrestling with around the economy, health, education, law and order.
Something that was missed by many media personnel yesterday, it was from a fact-based website that collects data, ironically, from government agencies, and that is with New Zealand's current account balance as a percentage of GDP now ranking the worst in the OECD, surpassing the global finance crisis levels. So what is National's plans, just quickly, for economic growth? Because we're not growing fast enough. That's what local businesses in Christchurch are saying. So give us the best pitch.
Yeah, you've hit on the major issue for us to deal with economically is over 30 years we haven't been able to grow the economy in the economists called a productive way, meaning we can drive into higher wages and salaries. We work really hard. We work long hours. We have to get money to actually cover the costs, but we're not necessarily working smarter so we can access higher wages and salaries. So we have to deliver world-class education. We have to deliver modern and reliable infrastructure. We have to embrace more science, technology, innovation, get rid of the red tape around our businesses and entrepreneurs. And the fifth bit, which you identify, is really international connections and trade. And that's because New Zealand, what we sell to the world and what we buy is now a massive deficit, trade deficit, but also contributing to what's called the current account deficit. That's the worst it's been in the 70s. I think we're now the second worst country in the OECD behind Greece. And so that means to us that we are not doing enough business around the world and not enough trade. And that, frankly, is a consequence of the last 6 years where we've had such an internal negative inward-looking view of the world and been so obsessed about internal New Zealand issues, but not out in the world hustling. And so during COVID, the Australians go off and do an early harvest free trade agreement with India. The Brits, the Canadians, the Europeans have done the same thing or pretty close to finishing, and we haven't even started. And yet that's the most populous country on earth today, and it's going to be the third biggest economy by 2030. So we really have to double the value of our exports and our trade around the world in the next 10 years. And that means we've got to be a government that's out there in the world. 5 million people in the South Pacific in a world of 8 billion people in 195 countries. Huge opportunities for great New Zealand products and services. But we have to hustle and we have to build those relationships back because they have gone cold from the past and we've got a lot of work ahead of us. So trade is actually how we end up paying for the hospitals. Trade is how we end up paying for the schools. It's how we end up paying for our roads. And we don't just get rich by selling stuff to each other within New Zealand. We have to go sell more to the world than what we buy from the world. And that's been the basic problem that we've had.
You just made me realise I've been speaking to many people in the space industry or the sector here in Christchurch. I had no idea it was so huge. I had no idea because we don't shout from the rooftop. But didn't your administration announce a space minister or plans for one to get into government? I mean, as farcical as it sounds to some people, not a bad idea considering Christchurch is almost like its little own NASA going on here.
Yeah, I've been down to Christchurch and I met with the advanced aviation businesses that are started up there.
Oh, they're amazing.
incredible entrepreneurs, incredible people, and they're going to be world class. But my real worry is what we don't want them doing as they start up these new businesses is that we make life really difficult for them. And there's a number of things that we've committed to doing, both in our tech policy and also in our space policy, to make sure that they can access really smart graduates from the top 100 universities in the world, coming from the best tech companies in the world. We have accelerated tech visas for those purposes. But there's a heap that we can do, and there's a lot around regulation in particular, because we don't want those companies going off to, say, Australia, where their CASA, which is their civil aviation regulator, is much more progressive in some ways, whereas ours has been more too conservative in my view. So because these are new innovations, these are aircraft and vehicles that fly at 65,000 feet. You've obviously got Peter Beck doing something deeper into space with Rocket Lab. So I think it's really exciting. And so it's a real opportunity. And you're right, Christchurch is a perfect place for it because we have all the sophistication of a developed aviation market and regulation, just like North America and Europe, but we just have a lot of empty skies. So it's a great place to be a petri dish and to be experimenting and building any global new advanced aviation or space business. So I think that's a good example of what can we do in government to turbocharge that so that those entrepreneurs can step up and build bigger, better businesses along the way. It's exciting.
It is exciting. There are so many of them in Christchurch with these massive buildings, and that they've got no signs on the doors, so you wouldn't know what they are. And you open the doors, and there's a space rocket, as just sitting there amongst the team. Listen, finally, I find this hard to believe, but apparently there are many undecided voters across Christchurch and New Zealand. A poll from One News or TV3, never mind. One had you up, one had you dramatically down. So what is your message to those undecided voters if they actually exist, Christopher?
Yeah, look, my message is really simple. New Zealanders know the country's heading in the wrong direction. The last 6 years have taken us backwards. You may never have voted for National before. You may be an undecided voter. But the answer is we need to get this country sorted, turned around and moving forward. We're going to be a government that's going to govern for everybody. The mantra is pretty simple. We do need to rebuild the economy to lower the cost of living and to bring down inflation and interest rates. We do need to restore personal responsibility and law and order. We do need to make sure we deliver better health and education. And those are the things that I think are of concerns to all New Zealanders. And so we've had very practical, pragmatic policy ideas to take that country forward. And I just think we have a fantastic country. We have an awesome future ahead of us. Don't give up hope on New Zealand or New Zealanders. We've had a hopeless government, but don't give up hope on Kiwis, because we can go to work and actually get this job done and actually realise the potential that sits in our country, which is incredibly exciting.
National Party leader Christopher Luxon, good luck for Saturday. Thanks so much for your time, and thanks for always coming on to this program and speaking to the people of Christchurch. Appreciate it.
Likewise, mate, and I'll keep coming on, rest assured.